Okay, Carlos, you want to start the intro and then...
Yes, hello everyone, welcome to On the Air with ODA session for today. We're going to be talking about the Oracle Database Appliance X9 and the Oracle Database Appliance 1915 software updates. With me today is Paul. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Carlos. Hi, everyone.
So for the agenda, we'll talk about the X9 first, the Oracle Database Appliance X9. Then on the next session, Paul is going to give you an update on the 1915 release. The key features or points are the data preserving reprovisioning, which is also known as node restore. Single instance HA, OVM to KVM migration, and several enhancements that also came in this release. Then after that, we'll give you a quick demo on node restore and the single instance HA, and then we can go into the Q&A session. So first, the Oracle Database Appliance X9 family. We have the three models that we usually have, a small. Notice that the one in the middle is no longer a medium. We changed it to a large. And the last one is the HA. And in that box, top left, you see what is new, right? We're using the latest Intel processor technology, capacity increase a bit in some configurations. Memory is now more, but in the next slide, it is, we detail more what are the changes from the ODA X8 to the X9. So the processor is still 16 cores, is now at 2.4 gigahertz, but is the latest technology, what is called as an ice lake. The Model M is renamed to L, and the memory, you can see here that the two socket configuration, which is the large model or the server in the HA configurations, now have a 512 gigabyte base configuration of memory. And the small is 256. The NVMe storage for the S and the L, you can see that there was a slight increase from 6.4 to 6.8 terabyte. The PCI bandwidth on this X9 model increases to PCI 4.0, and it basically doubles the bandwidth compared to the ODA X8. On the disk shelf, the HDD, instead of 14 terabyte, is now 18 terabyte. And then at the bottom here on field upgrades, these are just some memory options, but I want to highlight that if you get a customer that wants a large memory configuration, we sell the 16 by 64 gigabyte. A customer can configure a server to have 2 terabyte memory. On this slide, you see the different generations that we've had, and here we just, it's nice to show to customers how the Oracle Database Appliance has improved over time. And the 2 points that I want to highlight here are the last two items on performance. You can see that on the HA, there was some slight performance increase, right? Even though we're using doubling the bandwidth on the PCIe, faster memory, latest processor, it was a small increase because the backend storage is the same. But if you compare on the single node, this was a significant increase in performance, and obviously the same components are the reason why this is better, right? The PCI bus, memory, processor. So with that introduction to the X9, I'm going to pass it on to Paul to talk about 1915. Paul, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Carlos. So I'll go over some of the new software features with the new ODA 1915 release. So of course, you know, we always release the latest database release update, right, with all the bug fixes, right? So this will be with the ODA 1915 will include all the April 2022 Oracle RUs, and with the 1915 we support 3 versions of database, right? 12.1, 1915, and then also 21.6, which is in the KVM or DB system only. So this is just a quick summary of all the different databases we support with the different version of the ODA software. So as you can see, in 1915, we stopped supporting the 12.2 database because Oracle stopped supporting that. And just FYI, in November, the 12.1 is also going out of support. So it's a good time to prepare your customers to move to the long-term support, which is 19C. And of course, the 21C is supported in the DB system or in KVM within ODA. So here, just want to again show you the kind of the upgrade path for our customers with the ODA software. In 1915, you can directly upgrade from or patch it from 1911. And obviously, we're going to talk about a new feature that's going to help you to upgrade from earlier release that's coming up in the following slides. But here, just to remind you the different upgrade path, with the KVM, you can patch directly from the DB system from 1911 to 1915. And of course, for our legacy virtualization technology, OVM, we support up to 1913. So that's just kind of for reference only. Okay, from here on, I'm going to talk about some of the new features in ODA release 1915. And we're going to have two demos coming up that Carlos will go over. One is this one called Data Preserving Reprovisioning, or a no restore. This is a very powerful new feature that we will allow customers to reimage the system or the boot drive without touching the database. So you don't have to, back up and restore the database at all. So the database could be leave it on ASM, and then we can do this, what we call the no restore. For example, prior to this feature, if you have a customer, let's say that was on ODA software 12.1, and if you want to upgrade to the latest 1915, you have to go through 6 steps of upgrades, right? So here the arrows are showing the official way of upgrading to 1915. Now, with this new feature, this little utility that we released, we will allow you to back up all the metadata on the databases, copy that off, reimage your system node, without touching the database again. All your databases are still on ASM, and then upgrade and reimage the system node, and then directly upgrade to 1915 with the ODA software, and then reattach the databases to the brand new system node. Now, the downside of that is that because we put all the new database home on ACFS, so that all the customization need to be reapplied. So that's kind of one caveat, but it's a very powerful feature, right? Looking at doing this in 2 hours versus the above chart where you have to do 6 upgrades, right? That could take, a long time, and lots of complexity, right? So it's a really powerful feature for our customers and partners, and that it's one of the top requested feature from our support organization as well. Next slide.
And Paul, quickly, I just want to mention that this example shows only 12.1, but obviously customers can go from any of these yellow ones here, right, to the last one.
And then over time, we'll test additional combinations, right, so that we will allow you to do more of this type of direct jump to the latest version of our software. Yes. So this is just to summarize, the different hardware platforms. And one thing to keep in mind is that in some of the older platforms, we have support the 1st generation software stack called Oak CLI. Now, when you upgrade from that, right, typically it's in a virtualized, OVM environment, you will need to use the DCS version, the newer version of the clone database, which will create new database homes on the when you do the no restore feature upgrades. So because you will be able to download either the Oak CLI version of the clone files or the DCS clone files, because it is on the latest release. So you will need to use the clone files from the DCS version for the new database home. So just a reminder when your customers do use this no restore function. Okay. So the second feature we're going to demo after the slides is that we're introducing with 1915, introducing the support for the single instance database failover for enterprise edition database. We have supported the standard edition HA for ODA from few releases ago because we stopped supporting rack on standard edition database. But we're taking that same feature, apply that to enterprise edition. And this is an ODA unique feature that's you cannot find anywhere else, and you cannot use that for any standard x86 system. So this is very unique to Oracle engineering systems and specifically for ODA. And we'll support that for both bare metal and database systems or database in KVM. And then there's no license cost to ODA customers, but the 10-day failover rule does apply. So you can do this 10 days out of the year for testing, for unplanned downtime. So it's a great way to protect the single instance database, enterprise or standard edition database on the ODA platform. So this is just a quick view, and we'll do a demo to show you step by step of this failover. Of course, you could still use rack for your rack databases, but you can also protect your single instance database now because the built-in HA architecture with the share everything architecture for our HA ODA. And of course, we also use the same infrastructure to protect our application VMs as well. If you're on the KVM with applications and databases, so they're all protected now. So this is just a quick view of the browser user interface. As you create a single instance enterprise edition database, now you can say, what your preferred node is, node 0 or 1, and then you can enable that HA functionality. So then this single instance is automatically protected. Again, no license cost, but the 10-day rule apply. And then you can verify that by going to the database and see that the HA is enabled. I talked about the no restore feature. That feature could also be used to actually help our customer to migrate from the OVM platform to the KVM platform. So this for the database that were in the OVM or what's commonly known as the ODA base, that big VM that have all the Oracle databases. When you do the no restore, the database are automatically migrated to the bare metal. And then from there, you can then take that database and put it into the KVM. At this time, it's a manual process, but we're going to automate that as well, so that in the future release, we can do directly from the database in ODA base, directly put them into the KVM. But that function right now, it's we're only moving the database to bare metal right now. But for the application that's in OVM, you can do that through the migration process, through the no restore process, and this is all documented in our documentation. Okay, so again, that no restore feature is very useful for both upgrading the customers as well as to migrating customers from OVM to KVM. And of course, because ODA 1915 is a feature release, we have some additional features, and this is all in our documentation now, so you can go read on that. So you can modify the memory size for a DB system or the database in KVM, so that when you pick a shape, you can actually increase the memory on the DB system now. And we brought back the local option, so it allow you to patch the server and the database home without downtime now. So again, a very highly requested feature from our customers. And then of course, if you have built your own Oracle Data Guard with the ODA, now that you can register that ODA into the integrated Data Guard framework within the ODA now. And then of course, we also allow you to specify the redundancy for Oracle databases when using the Flex Disk Group with ACFS now. So this is also a 1915 feature. And then of course, we did a bunch of enhancement in the browser user interface. And we also support the OEM plugin with the release 1915. So at this time, I'm going to hand it back to Carlos to do the demo for the no restore feature, as well as the single instance failover feature. Carlos?
Okay, thank you. So first we're going to run the no restore demo, but before we jump into the demo, I wanted to show you this slide here so you can see the overall steps, how long it takes. There's three main steps. One is going to be detaching the nodes. Notice that takes about 10 minutes. Then the re-image, the re-image alone is about 60 minutes, right? So total about 63 minutes when we configure the first net, which is the networking configuration for the appliance. And then the last step is provisioning the nodes using DPR. And you can see here, this reconfigures the networks, the operating system, users and groups, install the GI, and reprovision databases to the same state as they were with the appliance. And these are all the different steps here. You can see all the time. So total is about 120 minutes. Notice these two items here: download the server patch, download the database clones, and somewhere in here was download the GI clone. I didn't put it in here, but all this, I didn't give it any time because these are things that you can do way before you do the installation, right? This step. And it's going to vary depending on the bandwidth. Some files are 4 or 5 gigabytes large. So make sure that you do all that stuff ahead of time. So let's jump to the DPR demo first, so you can just see the steps, right? So here I'm just showing that the system is at 12.2.1.4, right? That's the system that we're running. And if you look at the databases, it's a 12.2 database. Okay, so but we want to be taking this 12.2 system to 1915. And now this is a screenshot of the user guide on the web, right? You can just go there. You'll see this new section here, chapter 9, upgrading the Oracle database appliance using DPR, and the 3 main steps that I talk about, that I mentioned. So right underneath that, right, you can see this red box here. I wanted to highlight that if you have some customizations, custom RPMs, if there were some fixes that you applied by using the stick and CIS scripts, or if you had Oracle ASR, all of this is going to need to be redone, right, manually. And now I highlighted this warning here, right? It's some of you may have used this utility that we have that is called cleanup, and you're going to see it throughout the document. You cannot run cleanup. Okay, so follow the instructions to the letter, please, on this one, because the databases, your data is sitting on that ASM, and cleanup will delete that. Okay, so, and step number 1 on this is detaching the nodes. And the first step in this section is to download this new upgrade utility. So I'm going to show you where it is. And so let me do that next here. So this is the homepage for the Oracle Database Appliance documentation. If you go to the release notes, as I am clicking here, right, you have this section 3 patches. You go to this section, and in this table is where we have all the patches, right? The server patch, the database clones. And here at the bottom, you see the, oops, sorry, that was fast. You see the upgrade utility right here, right? You just click on this number here, and it'll take you to the download page. Okay, so now the second step is going to be to unzip it, put it in the OPT Oracle, and the utility is going to get extracted to this location here, or upgrade utility on this OPT Oracle. Right. Step 3 is going to be to run the pre-checks to make sure that the node can be detached. Right. So you're going to get on step 4, right? Once the utility runs the pre-check, you're going to run the pre-check report, and you can see at the bottom a portion of it, right? You're going to make sure that everything says pass. If there's some action to be taken, you're going to need to do that. So we're going to do this step 3 and 4, right? Because I already downloaded the utility. So here, I'm just going to show you running the pre-check. You can see here, right? Run the pre-check. And obviously this is going much faster, right? It's and once it is done, So database success is completed, right? You can see here the link OPT Oracle where the report, the log is at, right? And also we're gonna run the describe the pre-check report next to, so here it is for the system. Notice that we're running a single node system and it's a light system. We just wanted to show the process and the steps. But here you can see the pre-check report, everything passed. We just had a warning on these audit files, right? Nothing major, but just make sure that everything passed. And if you get any issues, refer to the release notes, the documentation, but it's gotta be, you gotta pass before continuing to the next step. And then step number 5 is gonna be to run the same utility detach node. And here you can see some of the output. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Obviously, needless to say, right, just customers make sure that you have a backup, right, of the databases always. So we're gonna run this next step so the next nodes here, right? As I said, we're running a single node, but if you're running a high availability system, so all these steps needs to run separately on each node and one node at a time. Okay, so once this detached node is completed, here on step 6, you can see that is going to generate some files that we need to copy on step 7 outside of the Oracle Database Appliance system. These are small files, so I just put them in on my laptop, right? It's so we're going to do these steps next. So here is detaching the node. I'll let it run, and it's just going to be a few seconds since this is going really fast here. And here is completed, right? So the same thing, it gave you success, make sure that it was successful, no issues. And then it gives you the location of the log where you can go and look at the details. And here at the bottom, it tells you the path to those files, the archive files that we need to copy outside of the to another location. Right, so we go to that path here and you can see the files. We have a single system, so only one file, and then we have a metadata file, right? We just need to copy the primary file that is highlighted, but in our test, right, we did both. So here we are just copying it to my desktop, and here is the second file, but you just need the first one. Okay, so once that is done, we're done with the step number 1. Then after this, we need to re-image the node. And we're not going to hold you the whole re-image. We have a video in the YouTube channel that if you're interested, you can look at the steps. So, but in this section, we're going to start, right, the re-image, and then we're going to plumb the network. We're going to set up the network configuration. So, right, so this is like this is the user interface to the island. We need to connect to the island to do the reimage. And you can see that we're using NFS. We have an NFS server and we have our images there. If you look at the instructions in the documentation, it'll tell you to use a different method, but that's okay too, right? It's whatever is easier. And I forgot to mention, right, that to reimage, you need to download an image and the same location as I show you in the release notes, right? You just need to go download that image to reimage the unit, right? We indicated where the image is at. We power cycle the unit, and we set it up to CD-ROM, right? Which is just a pointer that, hey, put off of that image, and then it'll just go ahead and do it. And here I'm showing you, you see remote console, right? You can just click on this console to look at the progress. Okay, after it launches, then you can just see the progress on the machine, right? Here is just going through the boot process. It's gonna get to the installer, and this is all I'm gonna show you, right? It takes about an hour, and again, the YouTube channel has the video where it gives you more details. Now, in the instructions, it said, right, that in the archive file, they gave us a configure first net file. So with a text editor, we just look at this and it'll show us the networking configuration that we need to use, right, for this machine. So the next step is going to be, right, to set up the networking configuration on this appliance. And what I'm going to show you, well, before you saw that we went to the ILOM on the GUI and we launched the Java console. In my machine, that takes a lot of memory. So I'm going to show you here, right, just using like a Mac terminal, another way to connect, right? It's we go to that ILOM IP address, we start the SP console, and here we log into the machine through this ILOM. And here I am connected to the Oracle Database Appliance. Right now we can run configures first net, set up the networking parameters that you want with the values that you have. It'll restart the network, and this is a really fast process. And now the system is configuring the network. So we're done with that step, major step number 2. The next one is going to be provisioning the nodes using this DPR, right? It's and it's gonna provision the appliance, and then we're gonna do bring up the databases. And I want to highlight, here is another warning: do not run cleanup again, right? It's and step number 1 is gonna be download the Oracle Database Server patch, same location, right? Update the repository, create a pre-patched report. So we're gonna run that. Number 3 is gonna be update the server and then update the storage. So we're gonna do all these steps, right? So that's the cleanup. And here, right, we are updating the repository. You can see here that is the server, right? So we already downloaded it. So we are updating the repository, and you get the job ID. I'm not gonna be describing every single one. You saw the first step, right? You just describe ID and make sure that it's successful. So on this one, we're now running create a pre-patch report, right? For -S is the server. So it'll run, and here it gives us the link, right, to just copy paste and describe the report. So here I wanted to show you, right, that everything was successful. This is what you need to have. If there are any issues, fix them, right? And then rerun it to make sure that everything is okay before proceeding. And then now that the pre-check is okay, then we can proceed with a real updating the server, right? So it's as part of the process, it reboots. But then I'm not gonna show you the status. Just here it was successful. Just go ahead and check that it was successful on your end too. And then next we're gonna update the storage really fast as well. Double check that it's successful as it was in our case. And then after that we go to step number 5. We update the repository with the server data archives that were generated, and we had to copy to our laptop. Notice here, right? We gotta update the repository, so we're gonna put him in the temp directory in the appliance, update the repository, and so we have a single file. We're gonna do this one. So, and that's all we need to do. Right, it's after step number 6 is going to be the GI clone. So we need to download the GI clone also. So here's on my desktop, the laptop, that's the file, right? I just copy it to a temp location on the appliance and done. That's all we needed to do, right? It's and then update the repository, right? With that temp location, the file with the temp location. And again, just make sure that your task was successful. And then step 6 is the updating the repository with a GI clone, right? So here you can see it's a GI 1915. So we updated and we're done, right, with that step. Then number 7 is let's reprovision the appliance. This is restore node -G. Here it shows a little bit of the output, but I'll show you that output, right? So now we can run that reprovision the appliance. Here is where we do set the passwords. And here is on this one, we're gonna describe it. Right, it reboots. And right, here I'm listing the jobs. That was the restore service. So we're gonna describe the last one, and you can see here, right? This took slightly over 20 minutes, but it's just reprovision the appliance. Here you can see all the different tasks that were done. Okay. And then step number 8, it's we have to, depending on the database that we have, right, we gotta download those clones, the database clones. In this example, you can see that there were 2 types of databases, 11.2 and 12.1. We only had a 12.2. So you've got to run this command here to find out the versions of your databases and then go obtain the clones. So I'm gonna show you here the location, right? But first we run this database version, so we only need the 12.2. And to obtain this clone, right, we go to the same documentation page. Here at the bottom, you can see that FAQ, frequently asked questions. And there is a new section here for data preserving reprovisioning. And you go in here and you're gonna find, right, the patches. So Paul was talking about the OAK CLI and the DCS, because we're now going to 1915. Everything has to be DCS. So I'm gonna go to the 12.2 section, right? So here is the 12.2 section. I click on that patch number. It takes me to the download page. I specify the version that I need and then just download it, right? So, and then once you have a download, then we update the repository. You can see here that is the database 12.2 clone, right? So once we're done, then you can just verify that everything was successful. And then we go to step 9. On the step 9, we're going to configure the storage location and the size for the database homes. Notice that it's asking us, right, we need to specify the database home size to be equal or greater than the value indicated at the time when we detach the node. Now, we didn't get this output, and I'm going to show you where to get it. We're talking in the near future, we'll put it in the output, but for most customers, notice here the default when you copy paste this command to set up to configure the database home storage is 80 gigabytes. This is going to be sufficient for most customers. If you run it and the 80 gigabyte is not sufficient, you're going to get an error. And the error will say something like expected was 96. You only had 80, right? So then you can just take that one and put it at 100 and then it's going to work. Right, so, but I'll show you going to that, going to the output that we got when we detach the node, right? On the pre-check, right? I'm gonna take this path here, and then I'll go take a look at the node, right? So this is the path, right? OPT Oracle log restore log. So I go there and then I found the pre-check that I did, right? The last one that we did. And then we just cat for, or grep, sorry, for this value here, ACFS DB homes. And here is what it tells you. The total space required is 15 gigabytes. So our 80 is plenty. And again, for most of you, it's gonna be sufficient, but you can check here. Right, and so once we check that, we configure the DB home storage, and now you can check that it was done successfully, right? And And that's it. Then after that, we can go and run. This is the major last step, right? Restoring our databases. We run this. This one we're going to describe to just show all the different tasks that were run. But after running this, our databases are up and running, right? 12.2 databases in our 1915 Oracle Database Appliance. So the last step that you need to do is just go ahead and just double check, right, that you have your 12.2 database column, and our database 12.2 is there. And as a last step, I'm gonna log in to that database just to make sure that I can connect to it, and then you can run whatever you want from there. And the last step that I want to show you is we're gonna log into the appliance, the browser user interface, to just show you, right, that is at 1915 right here. Okay, so this was a quick demo on just the overall steps that takes to go from a 12.2 to the latest 1915 database appliance software. Okay, so on this next one, right, we wanted to show you this new feature, the Enterprise Edition HA, high availability. And so this is an HA system, and you see two tabs here. The left one is the first node, node 0, and the second tab here is node 1. And we're going to create a database. This is the same that Paul showed you on the screenshot. When we select the single instance, you get to select, do you want to run it on node 0 or node 1, and then enable high availability for this database. Okay, so enter the password, click create. You're gonna get the notification, and after a while, right, you have your database 1 right here. This is what we created. We click on it, you can see that it's single instance, and you can see high availability through node. And then right underneath, you can see target node name, right, is H0. This is the node 0. This is where it was created to run on. Okay, so and we're going to be doing an enhancement in the future to add on which node it is active. Okay, but for the moment, that's what it gives you. And here I'm clicking on that second tab for the second appliance or the second node, and you can see the database, right? We just wanted to show you. You can see the same information as the previous one, as from node 0. Okay. Now I opened two new tabs right here that you can see, and this is Integrated Lights Out Manager. This is the island. The first tab here is for the first node, and the second one is for the second node. We're gonna go right and just power off the first node, so we can show you how the database that was active on the first node is gonna move to the second node. So here I went back to the first node, and it didn't refresh because the system is off. Coming back to the second node just to show that we can still see the database here, but we need to go to the CLI, right, to access it, to just show that it's active. And you can see two tabs on the CLI here, right? The left one is the first node, and the right one is the second node. So on this, we're gonna log into the database from the second node, and we're just gonna run a simple command like to get the SCN number to just make sure that we can access this database and get some data, right? So so that worked here, right? So now we're gonna go and turn the first node back on, right? Turn it on. And we're gonna access the database, and I'm gonna show you that it's not gonna access it because it's running on the second node. So we're connecting here to the DB1, and right here, you can see here it is connected to an idle instance. It's not active in this node. So we're just gonna run the same, get the SCN number, and it failed, right? Because it's not active on this node. And okay, so we're gonna go now turn off the second node. I log into the second node here. Now we're gonna power it off. And then here, right, you can see is the left tab on the CLI. So we are on the first node. And now it is the failover takes around 3 minutes, right? That's 2 or 3 minutes. And here we're connecting to the database on the first node. We were able to connect, and right, now it works, right? If we go to the second node, it's off. I'm gonna go back, turn off the second node, or turn it back on, sorry, turn on the second node. And here, now you can see that I'm on the first node, right? I already run SCM, but I'm just gonna run, give me the status and the database status on this server. And you can see here is open and active, right? On the first node. I go to the second node, I'll run the same, and it's gonna fail, right? Because right now it's active on that first node. And so this is our demo. We can go to any questions now that you have. Well, still there?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I've been answering some questions on the chat. So
Okay. Perfect. So I mean, we can take some of those questions, Paul, or I mean, to our listeners, please just continue putting questions on chat.
yeah. Or I believe people can unmute themselves and just ask the question directly. I think Skip has a question about the single instance AHA. Do the clients connect to the standard via scan mechanism? I think so, but I need to double check because the single instance AHA is leveraging our clusterware, but not the rack code. So that you know, if the scan mechanism is tied to our clusterware, then I think that is a. But we can get you the answer, Skip.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, earlier there was some question about the no restored feature with the rack system. So that and I believe the documentation actually covers the rack case. You know, it's like whether you have to do the you know, reconnect the node on both nodes. I believe that you do have to.
Yes, it does list the steps in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Another question for bare metal ODA with KVM. Do you have to pin CPUs running in VM to? Okay. So the way for Oracle application license workload running in the VMs. Now, we do have some licensing guide for running database in the KVM, what we call DB system, so that the database workload is pinned to the specific cores in KVM, so that LMS can check. There's a tool. We have some link to that. Now, if it's application, then it really depends on how application enforce their licensing, and we treat application KVMs pretty much like a black box. And but again, you know, if they're Oracle applications, then the way, you know, again, it's a KVM is recognized as a hard partition by Oracle, so that the LMS can use the KVM and their utility they can run to see which cores are pinned to the KVM. So again, so that would also apply to Oracle applications.
There is another one from Roger Simon. For SCEE failover, all in-flight transactions will be rolled back, correct?
Yes, I think the Oracle recovery code takes care of that. Now, this is on the client side. Then I think again the database transaction is always protected, right? So we're not going to have now from the client side, they may need to reconnect. And for the enterprise edition, we have the continuity, application continuity to take care of that. Now, for the standard edition, I'm not sure if that applies. But again, the database transaction is always protected by the Oracle database. On the client connection, they're talking about database transaction that is always protected. So there's no issue with that. But on the client side, that they may have to reconnect. Any other questions or? Okay. Do you see anything? I don't see any.
I don't see anything.
Oh, is there any performance level difference between bare metal and DB system? Yes. Anytime you use a virtualization, there will be overhead to run the virtualization. Now, we do not have any numbers yet, but our performance group are doing some benchmark, but not specifically on the database system or the KVM overhead. And you can find that actually because the KVM, it's a pretty generic Linux virtualization technology. So there are probably some performance numbers out there. Again, we use standard Linux KVM so that the overhead will be comparable. So there will be some overhead. So that's why, if you want the best database performance, it is still going to be the bare metal. Yeah. Now I see there was also, yeah. So performance is always a tricky thing to answer, just because that kind of depends on the workload, depends on your environment and what else is going on in the system, right?
Right. So there's another question. In database systems, can we prevent access each other DB systems data files in those GI ASM?
Yeah, I don't quite understand that question, but
I think is just want to make sure that each DB system has its own isolated data set and no one else can access it, which is the case.
Yeah, I mean, the way ASM works, we stripe all the data files across all the drives, right? And so I think the bottleneck is going to come from, somewhere else, right? Usually on an ASM, we don't typically have hotspots, right? Because the data are striped across all the storage devices. And so typically the overhead's going to be contention, somewhere else.
But this is not performance. This is just ensuring that another DB system cannot access the other data files, which is the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Now keep in mind even on DB systems, the data files are still reside in ASM. The DB system only contains sort of the compute part of it, right? So that's on ACFS. But the data files themselves are still all on the ASM. Yeah.
Okay, there's a new question from Thilinak. In databases, in DB systems, we can see alternative archive destination. What is the purpose of this?
Yeah. Okay, again, I'm not sure what
we're gonna need to find out about this.
Right. Usually archive is, we're talking about the the logs or archive logs, archive destinations. I'm not sure what. Yeah. So we need a little more detail on that. Yeah. If you could just send the questions to me and Carlos directly, we can check to see if we understand kind of what the archive destination is. It's not clear to me. Yeah.
Yeah, send us more detail, more question.
Yeah.
Okay, any other question?
Related to backup. Okay, so that's completely something else. Yeah, DPR mechanism. Can we convert all the base style? Yeah, the from Ravi, the DPR mechanism, the older base, it's a different architecture than the KVM because it was just one giant VM, giant Oracle VM, and whereas the KVM, it's really individual VMs inside the Linux, right? It's not a hypervisor type of virtualization for KVM, so that when we convert the databases inside the older base, they become individual databases on bare metal. So when you run the DPR process, what you end up with, let's say you have 3 databases in the older base. Once you do the DPR, what you're going to see, it's 3 bare metal databases on the HA system. Then you can decide to keep them in bare metal or move them into individual KVMs. That's how the migration process works. Right now, it's a manual process, and we're going to try to automate that so that instead of 3 databases in older base, in a future release, or if you desire, you can still just leave them in the bare metal, or we will make that process easier for you to take those databases and put them in KVM, and becomes a DB system in the current architecture. Yeah.
Okay, and we reach 12 o'clock. So thank you very much. Feel free to let us know if any other questions that you have. So send us an email.
Yes, yeah. And then we will also put this webcast on the YouTube. Yeah.
On the YouTube. Yeah. I guess I forgot to mention that for our viewers when, well, I guess it's in the recording, at least. You'll get these links, and here is the YouTube playlist. We're going to put it in there, but there is other links to get more information. Thank you.
All right. See you next time.
See you next time.